More particularly, those documents raised a prima facie case that the Russian state bore responsibility for Mr. Litvinenko's death. On the 1st of November 2000, he arrived in London with his wife Marina and son Anatoly, where in the transit area of London Airport he approached the first police officer that he saw and said, "I am a KGB officer and I'm asking for political asylum." He was granted asylum in due course, and on the 13th of October 2006, he and his family were granted British citizenship. 41 days later, Alexander Litvinenko died at University College Hospital, London. The immediate cause of death was a cardiac arrest from which the medical staff at the hospital were unable to resuscitate him. But the cardiac arrest was the result of an acute radiation syndrome caused by his having ingested approximately 4.4 gigabecquerel of polonium-210. The evidence indicates that there was more than one intake of polonium-210. The second and fatal ingestion occurred on the 1st of November 2006, the 6th anniversary of his arrival in the United Kingdom seeking asylum. The first, which had been about 100th of the size, had occurred some 14 days earlier. The evidence establishes that Mr. Litvinenko ingested the fatal dose whilst drinking tea from a teapot contaminated with polonium-210 in the Pine Bar of the Millennium Hotel in the West End of London on the afternoon of the 1st of November, in the company of Andrei Lugovoy and Dmitry Kovtun. I am sure that Mr. Lugovoy and Mr. Kovtun placed the polonium-210 into the teapot at the Pine Bar and did so with the intention of poisoning Mr. Litvinenko. I am also sure that the two men made the earlier attempt to poison Mr. Litvinenko, also using polonium-210, at a meeting on the 16th of October 2006. I am sure that Mr. Lugovoy and Mr. Kovtun knew that they were using a deadly poison and that they intended to kill Mr. Litvinenko. I do not, however, believe that they knew precisely what the chemical that they were handling was, or the nature of all its properties. Mr. Litvinenko did not, as has been suggested by Mr. Lugovoy and those representing him in the early stages of the inquest proceedings, and by other commentators, poison himself with polonium-210, either accidentally or deliberately. The scientific evidence as to the sites of primary contamination by polonium-210, detailed in Part 6 of my report, demonstrates conclusively that Alexander Litvinenko was poisoned by Andrei Lugovoy and Dmitry Kovtun. The further suggestion that has been made by Mr. Lugovoy that he had been the subject of a setup is simply unsustainable by reference to the objective scientific evidence. There can be no doubt that Alexander Litvinenko was poisoned by Mr. Lugovoy and Mr. Kovtun. The open evidence upon which I have arrived at that conclusion is set out in considerable detail in parts 4, 5, 6, and 8 of the report. I have concluded that there is a strong probability that when Mr. Lugovoy poisoned Mr. Litvinenko, he did so under the direction of the FSB, the Federal Security Service of the Russian Federation. I have further concluded that Mr. Kovtun was also acting under FSB direction, possibly indirectly through Mr. Lugovoy, but probably in the knowledge that that was the body for which he was acting. I have further concluded that the FSB operation to kill Mr. Litvinenko was probably approved by Mr. Patrushev, then head of the FSB, and also by President Putin.